Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. My name is Sarath, and every episode I bring a comic from the Central Time Zone to the show. And for this episode, I'm bringing Chicago's Pat. Hey, Pat, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? Doing good.
Awesome. So, Pat, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
I think the first time what inspired me was just that there was an open mic down the street from where I was living at this cool bar. Everybody seemed like they, to me at the time, the jokes were pretty good. So I watched one of them and I was like, this seems fun. I'm going to do this. And so less of an inspiration and more of just like I was bored. And I'm like, let's try this out.
Indeed. And what was the feeling like when you first performed stand-up?
What was what like?
The feeling like when you first performed stand-up?
The show that I performed at?
Like the feeling like?
Oh, what was the feeling like? It was terrifying the first time. I did very poorly the first time I got on stage. I brought too many things on stage with me. I brought a beer and my voice recorder, and then I forgot you need to hold the mic as well. And so I got up there and I just had too much stuff in my hands, and so it went pretty poorly, and that felt really bad. And I, didn't want to really go back, but I made such a fool of myself that the next time I came a little more prepared. I had a few things that I know got little titters the first time, and so the feeling was mostly fear and terror, and then the good feelings started to come after a few more times and feeling a little more comfortable.
Indeed, most definitely. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Okay, let's see here. I like Chappelle's first two ones a lot. I forget what they're called. The one where he's wearing the fedora, and then the one before that where he's wearing like the baggy brown shirt. I like all of Todd Barry's albums. Off the Bone, I think, is one of them, and all those are good. And Sam Morrill's new stuff, and Mark Normand. Those are kind of the more recent ones, the ones that are on YouTube, and Joe List. Those are all ones I would say are pretty much the ones I've liked.
Awesome. And some of those guys have been on TV and film, and I want to know what your favorite sitcom, sketch shows, and comedy films are.
Okay, sitcoms is a little tougher. I'm not as huge on sitcoms, but maybe one of them will come to me. Sketch shows, I know for sure. It's Mr. Show and The State and Stella, which was that. You remember Stella at all?
I think so.
It was with Michael Ian Black. It was with a couple of the dudes from The State, and it basically got canceled pretty quick. I forget. It was on Comedy Central, but always liked that one a lot. And Key and Peele, I always liked a lot. And then the Chappelle Show, of course. And
we're having a little bit of technical issues on, so we'll find out what's going on. But follow Pat on Instagram at Patty Munns on Instagram, and so you can check out his stuff and where he's going and where he's been and all that good stuff. But hopefully Pat comes back. If not, we'll have to we'll figure out some sort of solution here. It's live, so that's what live does to you. So hopefully everyone's doing well out there.
Hey, sorry about that, dude.
It's all good, Pat. So we were talking about, yep, we were talking about your favorite sitcoms.
Sorry about that. What question are we on?
Your favorite sitcoms?
Sitcoms. Okay, so Seinfeld is technically a sitcom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Seinfeld, for sure. And Curb, if that's a sitcom, I guess it is. And 30 Rock and Community, those would be up there for me. Other ones, there's a lot. I do watch a ton of them, but what were the other ones I was upset? I guess I was a little more into sketch mostly than sitcoms, but Seinfeld is the big one.
Indeed. And favorite comedy films?
Favorite comedy films? Well, Wet Hot American Summer, I think, is the best one. That's my favorite one. That's the one I think is the best. Anchorman, I remember thinking was great when I was younger. I haven't seen it in a long time. And then I just watched Annie Hall last night, and thought it was funnier than I thought it was when I watched it years ago. So I guess I would put Annie Hall up there. And other funny movies. I watched Back to School, the Rodney Dangerfield one the other day, and I didn't think it. That's on the lower end. I didn't think it was very funny. So
Indeed. And if you can go on tour with any comedian locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
Ooh, go on tour with local and one international. Let's see here. I would like to go on tour with Hannah Gatsby, who did Nanette. You familiar with her?
Yep, I've seen her.
That'd be interesting, just because you're like, the fuck, I don't think our acts would meld very well. So that would be a kind of a fun thing. That would be interesting. So I guess because she's pretty international, but like somebody I'd actually like to go would be like, Bill Burr seems like, pretty obvious choice. And then local people, I don't know, because I guess so that has to be somebody who tours locally. With local people, I don't know. I'd rather tour with friends of mine, actually. So I just went and did a thing with a friend of mine named John Gasper. We went to the Kenosha Comedy Club. So I like those experiences where you actually just go with a peer. But then there's people who are like great around here, like the big people like Pat McGann and stuff. Do you know Pat McGann?
I know, but
he's got his face on the wall at Zany's Rosemont, so he's obviously, so he's like a guy who, like, if it's like who's the best, who do I like a lot around here? It would be him. I saw him a couple of times. I thought he was amazing.
Awesome. And if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Nice. Let's see here. Greg Giraldo, Mark Maron, Todd Barry, Nikki Glazer, and probably Patrice O'Neill.
Sweet. And which what do you see your comedy journey in the next 5 years?
My comedy journey? Mm-hmm. Well, it's weird now because of obviously the shutdown has affected things. I've noticed that there is some things starting to happen again, some out of town stuff and some extremely distanced in-town stuff. So it all depends on that. My comedy journey is essentially at this point in reality to try to make myself a stronger feature. To be able to build time on the road and stuff like that. And pretty much, I don't do hours of comedy at this time. I don't do hours. So pretty much that's the goal, is to build, get to 40 minutes and then get to an hour and then make it good enough to where you can, hopefully be a working comedian. So hopefully 5 years, I would, if I was getting a lot more, paid work as a feature, that would be a big goal in the next 2 or 3 years. And then, hopefully within 5 years to have an hour of comedy that I could, because I've been doing it for about 6 years. And so 7 or 6. And so I would say that's a pretty, realistic goal, or something that's not crazy. And then on the higher end of a hope, I marry a rich person and I never have to work again. That would be a pretty, dramatic end to the comedy journey. Would just be, you just marry rich and you're like, I'm just going to be in a pool for the rest of my life but yeah, no, hopefully I'm either here or in New York and doing comedy. Yeah.
Indeed. And which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing, etc.?
Definitely sketch. I think it's pretty compatible with stand-up in a lot of ways, like the structure of the material and stuff like that. Acting, I've done some acting before. You did a lot of theater and stuff in high school and even before that. And not actually what I'm really super would be excited to do, but definitely something that would be something I would do. And so, yeah, I think sketch and writing, I'm trying to get better at writing in terms of writing non-stand-up comedy, just because that's a valuable skill to have. So something I never really just sat down and worked on. I was always trying to do the jokes to bring them out at night. So, yeah, I'm trying to get better at sketch. I've never taken any classes like that or anything, but I have a lot of friends who do it, and I kind of just ask them questions about it and then try to copy the sketches of theirs that I think are funny and come up with my own stuff. That's something
Indeed.
I get into.
Most stuff. And what's your favorite joke a comic has written?
Man, I wish I had like 10 more minutes to think of that one, but let me try to think of one right off the dome here. Okay, there was this is tough. It'd probably have to be David Tell, something by David Tell. And ooh, tell you what, can you give me another question? We'll come back to this one in like 2 questions. Is that
Yeah,
possible?
sure.
Because I don't want to mess this one up because I actually I'm a big fan of, the iconic jokes, but
Indeed. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
after mine is over, just that they laughed, or that they thought it was funny, that they didn't hate me. That's a terrible feeling when they hate you, or you can tell that you've offended some deep part of them. I don't like to do that, so I just want people to laugh, and hopefully they understood the premises of the jokes and understood the jokes. They weren't too niche about dumb, dating apps or whatever that person hasn't been on, or whatever it is. I hope it's accessible to most people, and then that obviously that it was funny, and it made them feel good in terms of laughing at something and having your mind brought off of the harder things in life from because you actually enjoyed a comedy show.
Indeed, most definitely. And what are some of your favorite venues that you performed at in Chicago?
I like Zany's a lot. Zany's is a great club, and Laugh Factory is a great club. And then there's a really nice room in the South Loop. It's called the show is called Tight Ship. It's an independent show, and it's gonna come back. It's at a bar called Half Sour, and the reason it's cool is because good hosts and good people run the show, and the crowd, they have a reoccurring crowd that comes back because they like the show, and I don't think there's as much comedy necessarily in the South Loop. And then the room is just kind of perfect for stand-up because it has low ceilings, and it has this cool ass wallpaper, which that doesn't really affect comedy, but I do like the wallpaper. And that's a great room. So when that comes back, look for Half Sour. And Cards Against Humanity Theater is a cool place. I remember performing there and really liking that venue. The terms of the whole country, I would say the Zanies in Nashville has a really cool club. Just awesome if you ever go there. And then on the East Coast, the East Coast, I don't know. I remember thinking the Virginia Beach Funny Bone. That was a really cool club.
Awesome. And we'll return to your favorite joke that the comic has written.
Okay. Damn it. All right. Okay. All right. I got a good one. There's a Joe List joke. I would say this is up there. I heard him do this one about how like his family is sitting around, and his sister, has a newborn child in the other room that's sleeping, and she asks him if he would go while he's going to get a beer. Would he check on the baby? And he's like, "What do you mean check on the baby?" And she goes, just make sure he hasn't rolled out of bed, and that he's still breathing or whatever. And so he's like, "So there's a chance the baby is dead in the other room? Is that what I'm?" He's like, "Is that the only system we have to make sure this baby doesn't die? Is occasionally deploy a family member and to make sure the baby's not dead." He's like, "Can somebody else go check on it? Because I don't want to come back in here with the worst news ever." You know what I mean? I'm trying to walk in with a fresh beer, and I'm like, "Hey, I might want to sit down for this one, but the baby is colder than this beer." So that's kind of the punch on the end of it. He does it much better. You can just Google it. There's a thing on YouTube of him doing it. It's a great joke, classic joke. So I'll give it to that one, even though there's a bunch of probably David Tell and like Norm Macdonald jokes too that are up there.
Indeed. And Pat, as you were nominated as my guest on the show, which comics would you like to see on a stand speakeasy, whether they're New York or Chicago?
Mm-hmm. Nice. So only New York or Chicago, or it can be outside.
It could be outside, just as long as they're local, like not
Uh,
famous, I guess.
you should look up my buddy Ian Stewart. He does comedy. He does comedy where I'm from in Maine, and he's just kind of an interesting guy because he's been doing he's been headlining for quite a while, and he just has sort of a unique take. He's not like a lot of other comics, at least that I've seen around here, and he writes a lot of other stuff, and he just kind of makes a lot of other types of art that are infused with comedy, and he's doing kind of an interesting series right now with another comic named James TeBurge. So maybe you should interview those guys, because they're kind of doing this interesting thing where they're like focusing really hard on local branding in terms of like they're up in the Northeast, and so they're making all their comedy sketches sort of based around the area that they live in, roughly, and that is with the intent of driving people out to the live shows. And so if they get like a viral video where they get a few 100,000 people or 1 million people to share their video and like it, then they are noticing this big uptick in people coming to their shows, which is kind of like pretty much what the goal is in the first place. So I would check them out, James TeBurge and Ian Stewart, and they do a series called Welcome to Maine in the northern New England comedy scene.
Awesome. I'll definitely reach out to those fine folks. And Pat, are there any final words you'd like to give out to the audience watching at home?
Oh, give out to the audience. Yeah, I would say listen to a bunch of you're wearing a Wu-Tang hat, so listen to a bunch of shit that Raekwon says and apply that to your own life. There's a lot of really interesting this is kind of a joke, but not really. They actually say some interesting shit where if you get it into your mind, it can almost be like a mantra, and you can sort of use it to shape, even if it's not about what's going on in your life, you can sort of pretend it is because it sounds cool, and you can use it just as a sort of artificial backbone in your life when you're scared of other things. You can kind of remember this cool shit that Ghostface said or that Raekwon said. So I would say mine Wu-Tang for little nuggets, and keep those in your head and use them to provide moral rectitude in your life.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pat, for being my guest today on the show. And I'll reach out to those fine folks and interview them and try to put Maine on the map and all that good stuff. And
absolutely. If you want a link for them, let me know. I can shoot you. I can connect you guys on Facebook. But thanks a bunch for having me, man. I apologize about my my not so good setup, but I thank you very much for having me.
All is good, and I'm glad I got to interview you. And we'll see you later on down the road. And be safe out there, everyone, and take care of each other.
Cool.
And
Peace.
We'll see you after this one. Be well. Take care, Pat.